Prayer. Heavenly Father, Mother God, whose glorious presence is heaven, whose presence is love, peace, eternal joy, and a complete sense of oneness with all that God is and we are. Father, Mother God, we give thanks that this is your established reality and that it is changeless. We are always a part of love, peace, joy, oneness. We are always an expression of this if we would but get out of the way. So our prayer is not to change you because this is perfect. It's to ask you to help us. Let the Divine Mother come into our lives, the Holy Spirit, to come into our lives. Shift our consciousness as you will. Shift our life experiences as you will. Show us how to not only believe vaguely in a God in the sky, but how to be that presence here on earth for ourselves and each other. Show us how to be the living presence of peace and love and joy, forgiveness. Show us how to be your forgiving presence, how to be your light when people especially are in darkness. So that one day we realize the light shines and it's not of the sun or the moon. We realize the light is shining perfectly, day and night, because the light is shining from you, through us, to all the world. Then we can say, heaven has come, heaven is here and now. And so it is. If you would, we're going to share our mission statement and then our sacred reading for today. Our mission statement is printed on the material in front of you and it's posted online. But if you'd like to join us, please do so. The global center for Christ consciousness is a spiritual center for students and masters on the spiritual path. We are dedicated to awakening the inner Christ and to creating a world of love, peace, joy, and abundance. And so it is. Now our sacred reading, please.
This is from White Eagle. You can purify your own physical atoms by right thinking, right speech, right action, judging no man. Then will come a raising of your own consciousness, a happiness of which you have not thought or dreamed. A gracious and gentle power will grow within you, which will make all of your crooked places straight. When millions of emotions threaten to overwhelm you, when you are in trouble and difficulty, just forgive, and all will be forgiven. If you treat yourself to think in terms of love and forgiveness every moment of your life, a most beautiful healing will take place in you. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. These words were given to us in love and forgiveness. And so it is.
All right. So if you'd be so kind, we ask each time that we're here what folks would like us to talk about. If you have anything in particular that stands out to you as a challenge or just a curiosity of what's happening in the world or in your life, something you'd like answers to or for? Anyone?
Trusting your own intuition, not others.
Keeping fun in the chaos. Living like the grass is always greener on the other side.
You're asking how to do that?
That's what I'm doing all the time. I gotta stop living there over there.
Oh, good. That's healthier. Anybody else? Pardon?
Spiritual bypass.
The folks online, they're sharing. I'll share later what they're saying if you can't hear them. What else was over there? Forgiveness. Okay, thank you. Okay, nice. Topics vary. Some things we've talked about before, but it's not redundant. They're important things to keep feeding our minds and souls with, understanding things like, spiritual bypass, forgiveness. These are things we obviously talk about regularly, but they're crucial, they're essential. There's a saying, the greater the light, the darker the shadow. It's a very important saying to understand, to have in mind. It has lots of layers to it, the meaning. But one of them is when you're getting on the spiritual path, you can expect, I wouldn't say you should expect, but you might expect that the greater the light, you get on the path, the light turns on, the darker the shadow. Now, that doesn't mean it's a threatening statement. Fundamental Christians will say, oh, ever since I found Jesus, the devil's been testing me. That's exactly the same, just a word tweak for a person who's recovering from addiction. I didn't know how much I craved this thing till I stopped doing it. Well, that's the same as got on the path and, the devil's tempting me. It's all the same. What it means across the board for any topic is that when we get our life in order, when we get on the path, try to improve our lives and, cut away addictions and so on, bad habits, old patterns, whatever they happen to be, something happens. And it's an interesting process, actually. But something happens, and part of it is it'll look like something's fighting to keep you from bettering your life. When I told my partner, I don't want to have unhealthy patterns between us anymore, I want to improve things, they started complaining more. Right, but why is that? Well, because it's out to get us. No, it isn't. It's an interesting process. An easy way to understand it is the more you increase light on something, the darker the shadow. That's literally true. I can hold up a piece of paper. I got a stack of the announcements. A piece of paper, the brighter this light, the more my hand will create a shadow. So what is a shadow? A shadow is really just us getting in the way of light. You don't have to analyze what your shadow is. You don't have to worship your shadow. You don't even have to therapy your shadow, although that's fine if you want to. But what is your shadow? It's when I get in the way. So why don't I just work on not getting in the way, and then I don't have to track down my shadow and try to kill it or befriend it. All I have to do is get out of the way and it's gone. That's really important to understand how simple that is. But the greater the light, the darker the shadow also means in my day-to-day life. Go ahead, try to increase your light. Try to find Jesus. Try to improve your life. Try to get sober. And you're going to find some strange levels that we go through. But the darker the shadow means it's gripping me. It's fighting me. I'm trying to get my life in order, even if it's the topic of prosperity. Well, I barely have any money, so I was told that tithing helps. What I found was I have less money when I tithe. Well, of course you do. If you have $10 and you tithe $1, you only have $9. But it's about shifting your consciousness. If you enter sobriety going, oh man, that's it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. I know it's going to be challenging, and so it is. And I know it's going to really work me over, and so it is. It doesn't have to, but that's the mindset. There is a tendency for the ego to fight from dying. The ego being your addiction, the ego being evil, the devil, whatever you want to call it. Those things, they're not real. God didn't create them, therefore they're not real. But we fabricated addiction and so on. God didn't say, let there be light and addiction. That didn't happen in the creation of the universe. We fabricated these things. So working on those issues is about us no longer finding value in them, seeing that they're not really that helpful. So when you say, I'm going to work on my relationship, but I know when I bring this up, my partner's going to fight me, the same as an addiction to a substance and the same as any other thing you try to improve. Trying to improve your relationship? Somebody's going to start complaining about it. Go ahead and try to work on saying no to a narcissist. Try it. See how that goes. Try to tell your codependent mother or father who try to still, you're 90 and they're still telling you who to marry and how you should live your life and what your beliefs should be and how you should vote. There's a lot of that out there. So saying no means, no, I have a commitment to knowing myself. Well, all the people that have been invested and gotten used to what they could get from you are going to complain because they have an addiction to you. But why were you their substance? Why were you their high? Why were you the stimulation they were looking for? So of course they're going to complain. It's just it's one of those things. You might go to a favorite restaurant to get your favorite food and they're out of that today. That's kind of minor, but it's still annoying, isn't it? But I wanted my thing. Yeah, but we don't have any. See, that's troublesome. Imagine trying to change your whole life, not just get your food today, your whole life. The greater the light, the more changes you want to make, the more pushback, the more fight, the more comments you're going to get from other people. That's just this world, and it's ridiculous, but it's the one we created. So whatever form this takes, there's stages to this. And one of you used that phrase, why do things the grass always looks greener on the other side? It's kind of an amazing concept for us. Why is the grass always looking greener? Which isn't true that it always, but sometimes that's the way we think. Oh, if only. See, if only means I don't have. It's an if only. If only I lived on that other side, the grass would be greener and I would have a better life. If only I had married them, if only I hadn't married them. If only I had their family instead of mine. There's lots of these. That isn't God. God didn't say, here's a really, really cool family, honey. Really? But that's not yours. That's the one you will wish you could have had. And then let me introduce you to yours. Tell him, St. Peter, well, door number 2, here's your family. Their last name is Dysfunction. That should have been a clue. So that is not God's will. This is us having to meet ourselves, our thoughts, our beliefs, our issues. Everybody's magnifying these issues and so that they can reflect them to us. And believe it or not, the Divine Mother is behind that. She's saying, honey, I know you think you want this and don't want this, but the truth is, in you, there are misthoughts. And whatever one you end up with is going to be the one you needed to look at today. No, that can't be true. Oh, okay, never mind. So now you have harder lessons because you're living in denial of such what could have been easy, an easier way to live and learn. So when you get on the path and you say, enough is enough, you're alerting all kinds of bells and whistles go off to the ego. Whether it's sobriety or any other topic, as soon as you decide to change your life, and that means even just your partner, hey, listen, we have certain conversations. I don't like the way we do, when we talk about a certain thing, there's a lot of yelling and arguing and fault finding and blame, and we have to change that. They could say, no, I like that stuff. And you can sit back and just, that's not what I was hoping to hear, but I will not continue doing this. How many rings will it get before you catch it? Good, thanks. You see what I'm saying though? It's like bells and whistles, you see? They go off to tell you. So think about this, that's hard for me to hear that you don't want to make those changes with me. But see, this isn't about this. My healthiness comes first, not you, not our friendship, not our family ties. God comes first. Oh, well, now they're going to complain and they're going to get upset. I don't care. So don't plan on making changes in your life. Don't plan on awakening the light and choosing sobriety and choosing no more codependence. Don't do that until you are sure. Because if you're going to do the one where I'm making changes and as soon as somebody complains, I give in, you're going to feel twice as bad. You see what I'm saying with that? Now, some of us go, oh, then I probably should vow to make no changes. Well, Yeah, but that's just going to lead you to misery anyway. So sometimes you just go. Sometimes you say, starting on Monday, I'm going to do a fast. And I'm going to do a fast for whatever, 5 days, a fast. And don't you know that your neighbor brought over your favorite food on Monday? You know, and diet starts Tuesday. You know, how much do you give in? Sometimes you just go, I'm just going to start it right now. Yeah, but I haven't prepared. I got to have my last supper. You know, I have to have my last final meals and to prepare for my fast. Well, doubling up on all your intake of food isn't the way you start a fast. You know, it's so strange. So really what you want to do is, how committed are you? I'm really committed. Then start now. Yeah, tomorrow, which is not bad. Don't judge yourself, but you already put one delay. So just ask yourself what that's about. And pick someday. Just do something at some point. Go. It's one thing to get an inspiration to do something. It's another to focus and another to go. Just move. And the sooner you move, the sooner the fast will be over anyway. So we have these challenges. And if I decide to turn on the light, here's something that's a bummer, which I've already been adding to it, saying, when I turn on the light, things they're called contrasting. So when you start to wake up, guys, you're starting to contrast your life. You're better off not having any spiritual intelligence at all. If you could just stay dense, you're really going to be safer. But now that I've told you this, you're already up creek. See? You should have just not come here and listened and watched and read and ever anything in the world. Something's going to get to you at some point. You can't hide. Your conscience, your soul wants to wake up. It really wants to. But there's this point where you turn on the light and all of a sudden, let's say you took your first workshop and you go home and it was a relationships workshop. When you go home, you will never be the same. I mean, you can try to stuff it and hide it, and no, none of that was true. You can try, but something in you knows. It was talking about poor communication, and I want to work on that. It's talking about faithfulness, and I want to work, whatever it is. So there's a part of us, the light starts turning on, you can't go back to sleep. It's those mornings when the alarm goes off and you definitely woke up, but you're going to try to pretend you can still go back to sleep. Your phone went off while you're sleeping and it woke you up. Oh, but it's okay. I'm going to sleep. I've only slept 2 hours. I got several more to go. And you just lay there going, like as though you can fool yourself. You know when you're awake. Can I hear an amen? Yes. Now, what about when it comes to relations and you're waking up? Guys, before your relationship ended, before they cheated and left and did all the things they do, some part of you already knew this was coming. Some part of you knew it was over. Roommate, family member, whatever category. Part of us, guys, we have an all-knowing. We do. But it's an all-knowing that pretends it knows nothing. That doesn't make any sense. I'm all-knowing. I'm a very intuitive person. Do you need advice? Okay, I'll give you some advice on psychic skills and so on. And yet, your life is falling apart. You didn't know anything about it. You were a victim of this and this and this and this. That doesn't make sense. So even when you start to own that you're intuitive, be careful. Because now next time what someone says, then how did you lose your wallet? It doesn't work on wallets because the banking systems are crooked. How did they end up your fault because you lost your checkbook? This is what human beings do. Well, I didn't know they were going to take advantage. You start to back off on bragging how intuitive you are when you see the number of things that go off in your life. Because you start to realize, I should have known. Well, that's not going to help. But notice it's a stage. There's a stage where we are dense and we live dense. We're shallow and we live in darkness. Stay stoned enough and you'll never realize that you're an addict. An addict. Okay? You'll be too stoned, too distracted. So we start to say, I'm waking up now, and oh my God. George Harrison said, there were a couple times I dropped acid and so forth. And he said, and I knew it wasn't right, but I believed in these other worlds, but nobody could talk about it. So I had to use this other thing to find those other worlds, dimensions, realities, whatever. And it was like he's like, I finally found what I believed in, but it's synthetic. He said, one day I went home and I looked at it under a microscope, and he said it looked like a rope. And I realized it was a symbol of like a noose, a symbol of being tied. And he never did it again. All it took was one inspiration. Now, was it that one, or I say to you, or did he already know he was done? The rope became the finale. And that's what relationships are like as well. They have these pivotal moments, the last straw, if you will. Your job, before they fired you, you already were done. You already probably even verbalized that you didn't even like the job. Then you're upset that they fired you. If you could have honest conversations with yourself, amazing things would happen. But when I have clients say, hi, Michael, I'd like some feedback because I hate my job. It pays the rent. I don't know of anything else I could do, but I really don't like, I say, shh, careful, because it's listening. It knows you want a divorce, and it'll cheat on you before you can cheat on it, etc. You see the metaphor? So what I say to them is change the words to this. I am done, but I'm going to give it till next year at a certain deadline, so that you're on notice as well as them energetically. You don't want to just blurt this out, because then you'll become a victim of your own words when they come around and boomerang back. So when you realize the lights turned on, everything is going to become more contrasted. All the creepy thoughts, the addictive behaviors, all that stuff. When you're fasting, you do fasting mentally and dietarily, you start to realize, I didn't know that I had this many dark thoughts. Because when you'd fast, try this if it's a day, 3 days, 5 days. When you fast, don't just go on a diet. When you fast, consider fasting from your addiction and have a journal nearby, because you're going to have all kinds of things coming up. Fast from negative thinking. Try that. I, for the next 24 hours, will not make negative statements of any kind. How true can you be to that? You slam your hand in the door. Ow, this is not hurting. I'm going to keep completely positive. You better open the door and get your hand out and go, ow. It's okay to have those slips, but it's nice to sit and watch yourself, how your mind wanders into all kinds of conversations, doubts and fears, obsessions. Now, the more you try to fast, the more opposite starts to show up. That's why Jesus told his apostles when they tried to do exorcisms and they couldn't, he said, that's going to take more fasting. What a weird sentence. They were like, oh, couldn't you just give us a magical prayer that'll kind of... No, why? Because he's saying you have to fast. You have to clear out some of your own demons before you can cast the demons out of other people. But you haven't even looked at yours, and you will not, and could not see this if you don't fast, because they'll show themselves. It's an interesting thing. People are like, there's a concept called inner conflict. When you ask things like grass greener on the other side, what that means is I'm conflicted. I have the life I have, but part of me wonders. What if only, wishful thinking, you see? So that's called inner conflict. Every human being has inner conflict every day and doesn't realize it. You're conflicted which diet to go on. You sit and look in the refrigerator. You open the doors and you're conflicted. But then that one's going to take too long to cook. That's faster. But I'm really in the mood for that. What a bizarre, this is a holy child of God, and you cannot walk away from the refrigerator with a decision made. Just completely, oh yeah, of course. That's why you should have frozen pizzas, because they're just always have them available when all else fails. I am that I am. Pull the pizza, But anyway, the go-to food, But whatever it is, what is your thing? Just knowing. The ego cannot let you make clear decisions because then you would be at peace. So it seems like I'm conflicted. And wait, it starts with I'm raising the light in my being. You're already in trouble, but it's a good thing you're doing. Raise the light. Okay, now that you're raising the light, you're going to start seeing things more clearly. Contrast. If I'm raising my light, I'm finding that getting stoned just doesn't fit into my new consciousness. These arguments in my relationship, you see what I'm saying? All these topics, it's conflicted. Certain foods, you're going to go, I just feel in the spiritual awakening, I feel like I'm a presence of peace in the world. I just feel so alive. I feel Christ or Jesus or Mother Mary or whatever you're into. I just feel spiritually alive. Guys, it's going to start contrasting. Foods that don't resonate with that. You don't usually go, God, I feel a sense of oneness with all life. And now I'm just craving a bloody steak. And I'm not saying it's wrong or bad. If your consciousness is congruent with that steak, then that's fine. The problem is when you wake up and you start seeing the inconsistencies, incongruence of things in your life. All of a sudden, your habit for a certain show, if you're one of those people that's into reality shows, you have a spiritual awakening. There's not a lot of my new spiritual self that says, and you know what I really need? More prayer and reality shows. They kind of go, these are ridiculous. The downside is the more spiritual you get, the less you're interested in mundane, silly, valueless things. And you get to the point where you go, I don't even know what I'm going to do anymore. Because nothing makes sense to me anymore. I've done that since I was a kid. My mom, she'd go, Michael, you only have 10 things on your list of things to eat, and now you've knocked it down to 5. She goes, I can't just keep making pizza, or whatever. But it's true, she would warn me. She goes, Michael, you can't keep checking things off the list. There's nothing I have left to feed you. I'm like, toast, I'm good. I was always, just toast, a lot of butter and toast. But anyway, you find that when you're waking up, this is gone, and there's collateral damage. There are people you're not connecting with anymore. Please don't take that stuff personally and don't take it on too heavily and don't let them project onto you. If this is where you're at, this is where you're at. It's not wrong for you to apologize. And some people say, oh, you shouldn't. Listen, if there's people that are confused by your awakening, there's nothing wrong with you saying, I know this isn't easy. I know that you, my partner, we're not intimate anymore because I'm coming from a different place now. There's got to be love or nothing. And you just want this thing, stimulation, but that's not me. And I know that's not easy. It's kind of nice for you to say, I know that's not easy. What you could be saying that would be true is, dude, you got no clue. I want life and light. But you don't say that. You say, honey, I know this is challenging, because you bridge and you're being tactful. It's kind of nice to do. When they hear you taking responsibility saying, I know it's hard, but I'm making changes, you're planting seeds to them that they might also consider that. So your tactfulness can change lives, even though deep down you might want to say, well, I'm spiritual now and you're not equal to my vibration. You don't need that stuff. So this awakening is happening and you start to see contrast. Now, when you see the contrast, you must own that it's there. You have to own that something's not right. And when you start to own that, I want to say this, I want you to remember to own your light and be grateful. Be glad that you're waking up and things are changing for you. Own that. Breathe that in. Don't make it like I'm changing and I'm losing things. See, you're making it a negative. Start, own, I'm changing, own, you're on the path or whatever it is. Own that this is increasing contrast and now I can see it. Own the positives. I'm very grateful that this is changing things for me and my life. I can see it's cleaning things up. But then also own the hurt that comes, or the pain that comes from it, the addictions that are showing up. Own the negatives as well. And then I want you to remember when you're dealing with inner conflict, because that's the root of what we're talking about. Underneath all these changes, I became conflicted. I started waking up. When I said the word contrast, I mean conflicted, because that's what's going to happen. The contrast becomes more clear and now I'm conflicted. When I was just totally shallow, it didn't matter. I was so completely messed up that I lived it and it was okay. I didn't know how messed up I was. Turn on the light and suddenly, wait, what? It's like looking at the food you eat under a microscope and go, wow, what's that? You know, you have like little amoebas, going, in the screen at the microscope lens, and you're like putting that in your system. It's kind of weird. Just like when you think about people you've slept with and you're like, I cannot believe that I did that. There's these things of our lives, you turn on the light and these start all becoming, even memories come back. Past life, childhood, these things come up. Why is that happening? I thought I was healing and I'm having memories of abuse or past lives. Because they're coming up to be dispersed. Buddha sits still under the tree, meditating. They'll come up as flower petals or arrows, whatever they are, just sit. What A Course in Miracles uses sit dispassionately, meaning non-reactively, and just watch them become the nothings that they are. You are what matters, not these things, not these memories, not these ghosts of the past. Let them come forward, pass you. Just let it be, and that's a clearing process. That you could do as a meditation. But whether you do it as a meditation or not, I'm telling you, your life is going to screen this for you. It's going to reveal it or reflect it. So the contrasts become more obvious. When the contrasts start to show, remember, I was blissfully unaware. Ignorance is bliss. I started waking up, and it's not feeling very blissful because things are contrasting, and it's going to make you feel inner conflict. Because now you see two things. The ego would rather you just stay messed up. If you're going to start waking up, though, your ego is going to say, oh, really? Well, I can't let you just look at something and be at peace, experience something and be at peace. I have to create contrast and conflict so that you're not at peace. So now you're making some changes, but I'm sorry that I hurt them, and I wish I hadn't done this, and maybe I'm not at peace. So what I would recommend is prayer at that point in this process. Please remember prayer. I'm feeling conflicted, God, which is not your will. God is this and I'm this, conflicted. Which decision do I make? Who do I date? Where do I live? What am I going to do? I mean, people are conflicted, like I said, food that they're going to eat, dress today. People actually stand there trying to decide which thing to wear. Do you understand? That's not peace. I'm conflicted. I know you're going to say, but that's not a big deal. I know, but it's the 100th time today you were feeling conflicted and you just woke up. You are. Who you are. I'm an addict. Pretty much anything goes then. Go for it. If you say, I'm clean and sober, careful, because you now created some contrast. There are things you might do that are not resonating with clean and sober. Is that making sense? And when you act incongruent with your statement that you're clean and sober, you create inner conflict, and you're going to then create karmic effects. God, I don't know what to do in this case, but what I do know is I'm allowed to and encouraged to ask for the peace of God. So ask for peace, even though I feel conflicted. Ask for peace. Own that you feel conflicted. Give the conflict, inner conflict, to God. Ask for peace. And then make your actions match as best you can. You cannot fix yourself. You cannot make yourself clean and sober without God being part of your program. I do not recommend that you try to therapy you and your partner in relationship issues. Bring God into those issues. Bring a greater spiritual path. Yeah, but whenever I talk spiritual, they lose interest. Never mind, stay. Either go wholly insane with them, and then nobody question anything, and you're just two insane bricks having a relationship, no thought, no conscience, just density. Fine, you could be, ignorance is false bliss. But you start waking up, be careful, because there's going to be like, you know what? I can see what isn't me anymore. But you're not going to just get away with that and choose the new life. As soon as you wake up, conflict starts to happen, meaning inner conflict. I don't know. I feel more awake, but I don't know how much to tell my kids. They're a certain age. I don't know how much I should tell them about the changes in me. I'm conflicted. I want to have a beer with my friends, but if I don't have a beer, they make fun of me. So what do? I'm going to lose my friends. Is that what you want, Lord? God's like, hey, I got nothing to do with this. Is you, reflecting you. This is your process. We can learn to walk the line in God. Pray, God, how would you have me see this? I'm torn between, wanting to go dancing, but I can't seem to go dancing with friends that don't want to drink or hook up with somebody in a one-night stand. But that doesn't feel right. Then don't do it. So I'll just sit home. I'll buy myself a rocking chair and, I wonder what my friends are doing tonight. That's actually not wholeness. That's inner conflict. And you might go, but I'm doing the better of the two. That's not a bad thought. That's not bad. You are doing better, but you don't have peace yet. God, how would you have me see this? Ask to have a different spiritual perspective of these things. What I really want is the peace of God. I start to wake up. I start to notice the contrast. I'm going to feel more conflicted. As I said, there's this genesis or progress or process that we go through that just descends into darkness. I'm starting to feel all this stuff is exposed. What do I do? Like I said, please own it. Own what's happening. Know it. If you recognize you're conflicted, you can bring it to healing. If you're in denial, it's not going to help. Blame. And it's not, well, I wouldn't be feeling this if only. It's not going to help. I'm feeling conflicted. Does that sound like a great positive affirmation? Doesn't sound like it, but it is. I'm feeling conflicted right now. I haven't gone out for a long time and I feel like a hermit and, I'm starting to just, feel alone and bored. My friends want to go out, but they want to go see a horror movie. I'm feeling conflicted. I want to be with my friends, but I don't want to do that. It's like, when can we have peace? Even the foods that people crave the most, do you know that a lot of times those are actually food allergies you have that make you crave unhealthy foods? Do you know that? Anybody? Good. Do you know that there are unhealthy people you crave because you have an allergy to those people? And yet you just can't do without them. I got to have that. Every time I think of them, they're so good looking and, how bizarre that we live in these lives and bodies craving the things that are not good for us. That is not God's will. It is not how we were created. We've done this to ourselves. How do I know my food allergies? Well, fast first and purge away some of these things. Do the prayer. I said that's one of the things to do. Do the prayer part, the owning part. Do the prayer part to see these things differently and for the support of God, the love of God, peace of God, but also proper actions. So to say, I go out every night drinking with my friends and I'm conflicted because I have a heck of a good time, but hangovers. The solution is going to be what? Don't go, and then you're going to be bored, you're going to say, and go and you have a hangover. I lose either way. Lose is not God's will. So in other words, I don't know what to do with this. Be vulnerable. So I'm giving this to you, God. I don't know what to do with this, but I'm giving it to you. This is going to get very interesting because one of the other steps is love and forgive yourself. So Jesus, which I've shared before here with you, Jesus says, we're going to go into Jerusalem now to his apostles. Peter, who knows, he's already said, when we go to Jerusalem, I'm going to be put to death. So Peter's like, well, the logical thing to do, don't go to Jerusalem. And when he says that, Jesus says, get behind me, Satan. He's saying, don't even go there. But why? Because Jesus was owning, recognizing, you're mirroring my conflict. Part of me doesn't want to go and die and be murdered the way they're going to kill me. Part of me doesn't want that, which is why in the garden he says, if it were me, let this cup pass, but let your will be done. That's what we have to do. Own that you're conflicted. And when you mirror that conflict through somebody else, own that don't say it necessarily, but own that that's you. When the judge says guilty, how could the judge say if you don't already feel guilty? If partner says, I found somebody who's better looking, you already have to have had these doubts about yourself to hear them mirrored. No, it's not very kind of them to say these things. No, it's not very thoughtful. Yes, it might be selfish and even overtly hurtful. But why you? You could not be doing and saying any of these things if it were not somewhere in my mind. Because there isn't anything that exists that isn't in your mind. That's why it's said that when the Spaniards arrived at certain shores in the Americas, the native indigenous people couldn't see the ships. It is commonly taught about this. They couldn't see the ships, the indigenous people. And so when they row in on the little boats, the little, whatever they are, the rowboats, when they arrive, the natives could see them because they knew what little boats were. But when they said, where are you coming from? Where do you come from? The ships. They look and they couldn't see them on the water because they had never seen them before. It was not a part of their reality. They take a test group of kittens that are just born, and they take one group and put them in a room with only vertical items, another group only horizontal items. And the cats learn to exist in those items, around those items, that environment. When they switched them, the cats kept bumping into things that they had, it was not part of their reality. It's so bizarre. Their mind was programmed only to see vertical things, so they couldn't see horizontals, and they would run into them. And the other group would run into its opposite because they didn't know what they were. They couldn't see them. So our eyes are receptors, but they're only an illusion. They're only tools that we use. It's my mind has to believe that this is a possibility. My mind has to understand whether I see heaven or hell, it's in my mind. If I'm in a state of perfect God consciousness, I can't see the freckle that you don't like on your face. I can't see that you've lost hair recently. I can't see that you have personality disorder. And what's interesting is you get into this place of holding so much clear vision of what is true, it becomes a problem too. Because if I can't see any of those things in you that you want to mirror, because that's you, and I mean I being any of us, when we're able to see people more clearly, it's a funny thing because it's like we're living in a completely different dimension. How do you function in the third dimensional world when you cannot see third dimensional things in people? And that's how Jesus was able to say, get up and walk. Because he said, you're going to come up to my reality. Rather than, oh, gosh, how long have you had that? Oh, I knew somebody with that. It's probably very painful. Now he's dropping to their reality, which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I'm just saying you have the option of saying, here's where I am. I'm aware right now that there's a dimension where you're healed. Would you like to join me there? And some people will not, even though it sounds logical. Some people cannot and will not. Honey, I think there's hope for our relationship, but we need to make some changes. No, not going to do it. So you're now in trouble because you're not the one that's in the other higher dimension, but you're no longer wanting the lower dimension. You're in trouble. You're the one here that's conflicted between the two. You're the one that wants to introduce change to a thing that doesn't want change. It's very exhausting to be in a relationship with people like that. And it's filled with sorrow, really, because you're in between the two. And in my own personal life, I mean, as a healer, as a counselor, you're telling people things that are really helpful to them, and sometimes they will not do it and they will not listen. I don't recommend you do that, and they do it and they get hurt and they call for another session. I'm devastated. I know. It's hard because you're not the victim that's in between the two when you're the teacher, the counselor, and so on. You're learning to be the teacher between the two. And when they don't listen, it's still hard. It's hard enough to be the recipient of being between those two, where you're growing and now you're stuck between these two realities and you lose constantly. Even when you're awake and you try to speak to people that won't hear it. It's called the Cassandra complex because she was the one who woke up and had this vision, ability to clairvoyant to see the truth. And she said, don't trust the Trojan horse. And they said, oh, you're nuts. And she was right. She was that voice saying, but she still, her curse was that she would never be listened to. So we have this constant inner conflict, guys. I mean, we could do a whole day workshop just on this and not be complete. How it happens. Because it's light, brighter, and so it contrasts to the darker. But you got to own that it happens. You got to own that I'm grateful for the light that I'm turning on, and I'm owning the dark that I'm not really digging to now that I'm seeing it more. You got to own that stuff. But at the same time, where are you going to go with it? Giving it to God, and what I really want to feel is peace. So Jesus says, I'm going to go to Jerusalem. They say, don't. He sees that they're mirroring his own doubts. There's an apostle, we'll call him an apostle. There's an apostle who says, Jesus, I have this thorn in my flesh. I have this thorn. Help me heal it. And Jesus says, no. Let my presence and grace be enough. And you have these theologians and whatever else, you want to call them, priests and ministers and televangelists talking about, nobody's figured out what that was. Did he have a thorn, an actual thorn? Did he have a splinter? Was it a metaphor of an illness? Whatever the thorn was to this person, he said, there's this thing that causes me constant pain. Would you take it away? And Jesus said, no. Well, that sounds like me, all of us could say. I've asked for, fixing this and fix my husband. Why do make me not want this? And so the same apostle says, all the things that I would not want to do, I keep doing. And the things that I would like to not do or do, I don't do. It's vice versa. So why am I attracted to doing the things I know I shouldn't be doing? That's the thorn. That's the splinter. That's the rub here. You see? Why are you attracted to foods you're allergic to? What a shame. Or it's kind of funny. Why am I attracted? There's just a certain person with a list of dysfunctions and they're irresistible to me. How could that be? Is that God in you talking? No. Own it and laugh at it and go, man, it's a funny thing. There's an author many years ago who started really making popular the concept of codependence and all that. So this author in one of his books says, I know through and through the whole concept of codependence. And he said, I know it so well. When I walk into a party, I will be able to know the exact most dysfunctional person in the room. Why? Because it's the one I'm most attracted to. Isn't that kind of bizarre? Try that kind of honesty. Now, if you go too far with it, it's a lose-lose because, fine, then I won't go to the party because I'm just going to stay home and knit. You see, what you're doing is, are you noticing how lonely I am? Because you won't let me do dysfunctional things? This is what we're doing to God. God's like, got nothing to do with it. There's a point where you realize, surrender it to God. What I want is the peace of God. Now watch. If I have the presence of God, I could go to a party and nothing would interest me that's unhealthy. I could stay home and I wouldn't feel lonely because I'm in the peace of God. That's why Jesus told the apostle, what you want is my presence. Let my presence be enough. What he's saying is just bask in my presence and nothing can harm you. I'm still feeling cravings. Yes, and you'll surrender them and forgive yourself, and they don't have power. The spiritual path does not mean naughty stuff. No. Say no to naughty things. That's the way of the mystic, which is beautiful. But they went from doing to not doing and abstaining. And it's extreme. What I want is the presence of God. And I will also take external measures, meaning behavioral measures, to say, and I'll go dancing, but I'm not interested in having a drink. That's your discipline. So it's okay for you to be part of this, but you of yourself can't fix yourself. The one that's already dysfunctional and conflicted, we don't even know where and how often we're conflicted to be able to fix them all. But I promise you, there's a feeling of inner conflict about just about everything you can imagine doing in your day-to-day life. What friends to have, not have, how long should you take this trip, how much money should you spend, just constant. And we think they're just decisions that were, I was doing this or I'll do this. We think that. It doesn't work that way. Jesus makes it very clear in the spiritual psychology book called A Course in Miracles. Here's how this works. I've shared this, I think, twice before in our talks here, but here's how this works. Let's say you are desiring to do something. It's a movie, it's a food, it's a drink, or whatever it is. You're deciding who to marry, who to date, whatever it is. Now, you have two options. If I choose this one, the one that's like clearly not healthy, if I choose unhealthy, the other voice that says, you gave in. What a bummer. You could have been spiritual today. You could have been stronger. So choosing unhealthy, I'm going to feel bad. And he says, and that leads to depression. You have another option. Not do it. I'm going to be spiritual, man, and I'm not going to do this, and I'm not going out, and I'm not going to do, all these rules. And he says, now you're going to feel anxious. If you don't do this, you're going to feel anxious. If you don't do this, you're going to feel depressed. Depression is often us judging ourselves and caving in and feeling guilty. That's where the depression comes from. Being so hard on ourselves because you're giving in, because you're so weak, and weak is depressed. See, they're kind of like down. I'm weak, I'm depressed because I feel weak. I feel weak because I gave in, and I'm a bad person. That's all depressed thinking. But I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be like this. Notice the tone. Perfectionist. Man, I'm going to be so spiritual. I will never do anything wrong again. He says that leads to anxiety disorders. This is the obsessive person. Which one do you want to be? I don't know. Whatever you want to do, guys. But it's a lose-lose scenario. You thought you could make the right decisions and be healthier and safer. You see? And it doesn't work that way. What I want is the peace of God, no matter what I do. You're allowed to go, this food, it's my birthday, I'm on a diet this last couple years, and it's probably not a good idea to have sugar. Probably now you're just leading yourself into trouble. You know what? God be with me. Have a slice of cake if that's what you want to do. Enjoy, smile at people. Don't look at them all and go, do you know what's in that? Do you know how much sugar is in a cake? That's not why you're on this planet. How are you making a difference? How are you bringing the presence of God? And mind you, as a teacher and a counselor, I got to tell you just this one segue. It is probably the most challenging part of my existence. It's every day, 1,000 times a day, that I do what I can to stay right here with everything. But because I know what I know, the light is on. The slightest this, the slightest that, and I'm keenly aware. Why? Because the light's on. And there's times when I'm thinking, and I have thought, wouldn't it be nice just to be asleep and not know this? On rare occasion, but it does happen, I think. And I call it, in my prayers and such, I call it just to be normal. Why do I have to know this stuff? Why can't I just do that? And why can't I just do that? And it's all me. And somebody else could mirror it. I remember one time when I moved out of one area that I lived, somebody checked in with me a year later. And they said, what have you been doing? It's a couple years I haven't seen you. I said, the strangest thing. I was in my early 30s, but I was already touring and teaching. But they said, what have you been doing, Mike? And I said, strangest thing. I went out dancing. And they're like, oh. Like I fell from heaven. I'm swearing to God. They're like, now watch this. They're like, oh, why? And you were so spiritual, and we all trusted you as our teacher. And I sat there going, wow. And then I responded and said, what am I, a wind-up toy? I did. I said, what do you think? You're spiritual. Be spiritual. Like, I'm not allowed to do anything but what they want me to do. Do you see? And I was getting really adamant about it. Their voice and my adamant voice, it was all the inner conflict talking to each other. You're not allowed. Yes, I am. But just because I go dancing doesn't mean I was like waking up in the alley of the place the next morning. You know, I still kept my wits, but I knew who I was. I was pretty clean, and that's how I am. But the shame voice came up just to go out dancing. I'm like 30 something. I had never been to a place, never been to a nightclub, never danced, never did anything. And I'm like doing it, and I'm getting shamed for it. Are they wrong? Yeah, it's insensitive and blah, blah, blah. But guess what? They were my voice. That's still with me to this day. Be a spiritual leader, you know, hug somebody, and somebody on the across the room, oh. They hugged them, but not me. It's probably the hair color, you know, you probably, and they start making up stories. And I'm just like, you know, doing my thing. But we all have these multiple personality disorders. Lots of voices with lots of opinions to do and not do. And I'm telling you, none of them are for our greater good. It's not, how do I get the right voice to talk to me and not this one? Neither of these is healthy and has your best interests in mind. This one's going to depress you. That one's going to make you anxious, trying to behave and be perfect. Either one you give into, you lose. There's only one. There is no duality in God. There is no duality. There is no, which one, guys? It's this one. Right. The voice, it's the voice of God, and it's the truth of who you are. Christ. You can call on Jesus because he dealt with these things. You can call on whatever works for you. You can even call on your angels, whatever, do something, call for help. I'll just call on God. Ask for help, as I said. I don't know what to do. Show me. If you think you know, you're going to end up making one of these two decisions that isn't here. The peace of God is what you want. It's what we all want. The peace of God means also the presence. What you really want is the presence of God. We just don't know that. We think, like Jesus explained in the garden, if it were up to me, I would let this cup pass. That sounds like a better life. But let God's will be done. Think about this. Which one sounded more fun? You know that the one, but let your will be done, ended up with being pummeled, beat up in every kind of way, lashed, one lash short of death. The Romans had this down to a science. They figured out how many lashes would kill a person, and they backed it off one for him. You understand? This wasn't like a hand slap. This was heavy stuff. He's got all this to decide, and he's got this. Which one sounded better? Obviously, let me off the hook. I'd like to not deal with recovery because it's annoying having to deal with recovery. Got to make all these changes, got to start lifestyle changes, and you lose your friends. That sounds great. So you don't want to do that. Oh, but you're going to behave and you're going to not do this and that. You're going to have anxiety trying to not give in to your drinking or whatever your addiction is. People, you let go of that relationship, you're going to lose either way in the world's, account. But when you say, God is with me, Jesus said, let your will be done. That's the center one. And please, this isn't a preach. This is practical psychology. When you're deciding on peace, these two things start to lose their contrast and they start to reel in and become more like this. There's still a little bit of wiggle. You still go dancing. You just don't do that. You still, certain integrities. You just don't go to that extreme. You're living here a little more close to the line, close to the light. You can use that. What would Jesus have me do? What would Jesus do? What would any symbol of healthiness do? And you start combing out all this stuff that you didn't even know were knots in the flow of life. Prosperity issues, whatever it happens to be. So I'm going to go to a close here. Look at the forefathers of this country. They fought about becoming an independent nation. They argued a long time about this. Why? Because they were not at peace. They did not have certainty and clarity. They were conflicted. Do you understand? Remember, what they were going to declare independence was punishable by death. Do you understand that? As soon as they sign, they're actually wanted and are going to be put to death. Like Ben Franklin said, guys, we better hang together or we're going to hang separately. It's a really great wisdom statement, because divided we fall. So not long afterward, barely wins the vote to end slavery. Why wasn't it obvious? Because they were conflicted. They were not clear. They were conflicted. This happens again. Do you know that when the forefathers put together the Bible, it was by one vote that reincarnation was voted out? By one vote. Why? Because they were conflicted. Some of them are going, but it's a very natural thing. We know it's a part of life. It's so accepted. Others were going, yeah, but. You tell people that they can live other lifetimes and get their act together, they won't devote themselves to the church now. We want absolute, the fear and devotion. And yet some of them had a conscience, but that's not to the truth. I know. But do we really want to let loose, these people? So conflicted. When I came to do the position here, they asked me to come and do in Sedona for the center. There was no way I was going to do this if they voted 51%. I told them, well, you should ask your congregation if they want this, this kind of trip going on here. They might want to have a guy wearing a suit and a tie and, quoting from Deuteronomy every Sunday. I said, you should ask them. But I knew if it's 51%, 61%, 71, 80%, even 90%, I won't take this job. It has to be clear. I will not step into conflict, which I still stepped into. Because even the few percent can be very loud and obnoxious to get their way, because they're mad they don't get what they want. Yeah. But I still said it's got to be a major, and it was 99-1.
You won your battle through Jesus Christ, bro. I watched you do it.
Thank you. Thank you, sweetie. Thank you. Yes. Yes, Jesus. And I walked through it. But again, I had to accept that the 1 or 2 or 3 that might vote against, they might leave. And they're going to be potentially sad, angry, and they're going to project. Are you okay with that, guys? Are you okay with your body screaming for an addiction to be fed when you say no? Like I said half an hour ago, don't start your sobriety, your fasting, if you're not going to stick to it, because it'll be worse now. If you're going to make a commitment, then stick to it. It's great for your self-discipline and so forth. It's great on all kinds of levels. But again, wow, do I want to win by 51%? I could never be a politician, because they've already divided into distinct groups that will not vote for what's right. They'll just vote for what their thing tells them to do. I can't do that. I need free people making a decision that's coming from something else, a higher inspiration. And if that's happening and the vote is not clear, I'm going to sit back and think. Now, I have to sit with this. And I'm telling you to do the same thing. If you can't figure out what peace is, take a break from it. Fast. That's what the greats did. You fast from it. You take a break and say, okay, I'm not clear, so I'm not making a decision. They call it sleep on it. Give it a night. Give it a day. Fast and wait for inspiration. And it's nice because as you fast away all the extraneous and garbage voices, you fast those away, greater clarity comes to us. But it helps if you believe that. It helps to believe that you're worthy, that God will speak to you and give you ideas, give you insights. You might want to do this before you do that. You might want to add this to the mix or whatever it happens to be. So the inner voice, the conflict, it's normal. Please own it. It's normal, but it's not of God. So look at it. Own the light you must have turned on to make the conflict. That's a good thing. I must be on the path because this is lighting up for me. But I got to own that I have doubts and fears and contrasts. What am I going to do with those? Give it all to God. Give it all to God. I don't know what to do with these things. I don't know which. See, God isn't telling you do this or do that. God's going, I want you to only do this. But I don't know how. I know, honey. So give this all to me. Do what you can on the outside to make decisions to stay healthy, live a healthier life. But you're going to have these callings. And the apostles had those callings. This one with the thorn in his side, figuratively. Such pain all the time. And he acted it out on other people. His issue, he would act out on other people with his agitation level. See, and that's not of God either. So we walk here, just keep following this. What is the peace of God? What resonates with peace, and follow that? Not what would they want, what would they want? No. What is the most peaceful thing to do here?
Allowing Jesus Christ to lead.
Yes, what's that? Yes, right? Right there. What would peace have me do? What most resonates with peace? Get used to that mantra, peace. If something doesn't resonate, guys, it might not be right for you. If you want peace. If you don't care, anything goes. Go back to that shallow lifestyle. But I'm sorry, but I'm not. That when you wake up, things become more obvious. And you have to deal with that. And you might find yourself doing a lot of it. Having to every day to go, my God, I was so much better off when I didn't know any of this. Now I know it. What, you know, peace. What would resonate most with peace? And one decision after another. They don't end after 3. Every day it's going to come to you. And there will be days, as there is for myself, there will be days still. I mean, the simplest things I could say, I'm going to go get something to eat. And in my mind, there are thoughts about where I can go and be left alone, or where I can go and are other people going to join me? And, you know, typically I do like, because of the stuff that goes on with this world, I've told folks here, almost never have I sat somewhere with one person and had lunch or dinner or whatever it is. I always tell them, bring a friend. Always have more people there. See, so that people, because one time when I got here, somebody was here and they said, could I come for a session? They did. They said, instead of sitting, could we just walk? Could we walk up the street, you know, just down the street? And so we went walking. Somebody saw, and the next thing I knew, I was dating the person because they saw me out walking with this person. I'm like, okay. And I said to myself, that's it. And never did it again. It's like, I'll sit with a couple people, we'll chat, but I'm not, you know, going to do, there's certain things, and you have to decide what works for you and what doesn't work. Decide your principles, your integrities, decide what works, and you're still not going to have it perfectly clear and clean. People will still talk, people will still think what they're going to think. Someone sees you with a soda in some place, they're going to think, if you used to be a drinker, they're going to think your Coke has rum in it. That's what they're going to do, that's this world. But it's not your truth. You will not find peace ever trying to acquiesce to people's opinions and truths. It's still kind of a drag that we have that. But this is what I'm looking for, the peace of God. Please take a few centering breaths. Just a minute. Start eating foods without flour. Look at where you have given in and where you have fought. Because the denial and the fighting isn't actually the reason God. Look at how you've tried to make yourself more spiritual. Look at how where you erroneously tried to perfect yourself, fix yourself. Well intended, I'm sure. Judging ourselves isn't enough. Just observe. Who to date? Should you stay? Should you go? Instead, Father, Mother, God, I see so many thoughts in my head about this thing. Should I? And I do not know what's best because I do not have 100% presence and peace of God with me. So I see this. I see that I'm trying to perfect. I see that I'm wrong. I see that I have inner conflict. Even a bird will not land on my hand on command because it senses someone with conflict can't be trusted. So it doesn't feel safe. You walk around like a war zone and you don't even realize it. And it's over what food to have for lunch, what friends to choose. This is not your will, God. I'm giving all this to you. How would you have me see this, what was once conflict? How would you help me establish peace where there was war? To all the people involved at either side, whether it's political, scientific, doctors' opinions, family members, all those things aside, be still and know that I am present in God. I don't deny that there's voices, and I don't deny that they think they're helpful. That's enough. Stop. I really one of you asking about, having fun, even in this world, even in the chaos. And we think that it involves these two extremes, and it isn't. It's the peace. And then you bring the fun. You're not looking for it out here. You're bringing this really beautiful presence. And still, it's a tightrope. It really is. There's days I wish it weren't. I mean, there's days it's just like, wow, it'd be nice to just, do something. But being in the presence of God is doing something. Not making certain decisions that you feel are not right for you, partnerships, whatever it happens to be, is a healthy thing for you to stick to. That's not working for me. But are you fighting it like this, one to another, or are you coming here and realizing this isn't here, so it's no more? Does that make sense? Be here fighting this one, here fighting this one. Go here. Can this come here at all? Some pieces of it, good. Then that's a relationship, let's say. Well, then the parts that work, the parts where we can communicate, let's have that. And I give thanks in advance, you see. What did you hear or learn today that makes the most sense for you, that's working for you the most, that might be the most helpful to you or in your life? Yes.
Everyone in this room, we were all children at one time, and we were all programmed by our parents.
Yeah.
And, some of the programming was like a nightmare for some of us. Some of us better than others. Okay?
Yeah.
So for us to go through our, to grow up, and it's no wonder that we are in conflict with the left and the right.
Oh, yeah.
To get to the center and bring God into our lives.
It's no wonder that we're in conflict, given all the programming and things going on in this world. Yes.
And the other thing I want to mention is the food. I've started to increase or improve my diet as much as I can for a number of years.
Yeah.
No drinking, no smoking, no vaping. And I had my daughter and her family come and visit me last year here in Sedona.
Yeah.
And I have jars of nuts, cashews, walnuts, and I have a big jar of sugar. And I filled it with sugar, and I wrote poison on it with a skull and 2 bones.
Oh, jeez.
And my daughter looked at it, she goes, "Dad, what's that?" I said, "Too much of that will kill you."
Jeez Louise. I won't share the whole story with you folks online. But yeah, even something as simple as foods becomes this thing I want to perfect, and it's causing conflict, which, by the way, if it's causing conflict inside, it's also harming your health. So even trying to eat a certain way is harming your health, which is counterproductive. Okay, just 1 or 2 more. We have to move on. Yes?
My favorite thing is handing every moment over to God.
Hand or to Jesus Christ. Hand every moment. Well, the conflict, you understand, you're on this planet. This is the ego's trying to make you conflicted rather than peaceful. So call on peace. Call on peace. But that I'm not only saying call on peace. I'm also saying own the light you must have turned on to create the contrast. Good job. I'm glad you're getting on the path. Own that these shadows are yours. The doubts, the fears, the voices of others, and the angst I wish I had. That's my doubts speaking. Own that. But then, yes, surrendering it and taking appropriate actions on your part, sure. But you can't just fix yourself with your actions. You bring God into the picture. It really makes it so much easier. 1 more.
The imbalance will become obvious when we're not centered with God.
The imbalance and the contrast becomes more evident as you turn on the light, and that's the presence of God. So it's a very strange thing to be talking about. Let's all turn on our light more, and then we all leave depressed. Because he said, when you turn on the light, yes, as Jesus says in the Gospel of Thomas, seek and you shall find really was seek and you shall become disturbed. And then you will find eventually. I know, he actually said that. But you can understand why some of the apostles were like, I better not put that in there. Seek and ye shall become disturbed. It isn't like a great crowd gatherer, for churches. Seek and you shall find. Oh, okay. No, seek and you shall become disturbed. Because when you get on the path, the light comes on and the dark expands, and now you're looking at contrast. That is my life. Really? I got on the path and this is what I get with it? Just contrast and conflict inside? Stay the course. You're doing the right thing. Give thanks, and stay the course. Because my intention is to walk in the light of God. What do you do, guys, if you have a critter that gets on you, a spider or whatever, that's trying to kill you? It could kill you or hurt you. What do? I'm conflicted because I'm a spiritual leader. I'm a person of peace. Oh, I don't want to hurt it. When do you make those decisions? How do you make those decisions? You see? I mean, it's interesting. You've got an invader in your home. It's a person. Oh, well, peace be with you. It's all an illusion. What do you do? And I'm telling you, the ego is planning these things in our lives. Look at politics, to make nobody be at peace. To me, it's very sad. And sometimes I get a feeling of heartbreak because people work so hard to make things challenging and so dark. It's just like, sometimes I'm like, God, we were that close, or whatever it might have been, and something happens to create that contrast. It's a good reminder, as Yogananda says, when these things happen, this is not my home. This thing here, the look of it isn't my home, but this is. Come back to this. Keep coming back to this. Sorry, you might not seem like you have a lot of support systems to get you here. Start here and you'll get more and more of those. We're going to take up our collection and do our closing prayer. Please be as generous as you can be. The prosperity prayer, we call it, prosperity blessing, is on your brochures. Hold your love offering to your heart. What you give goes in the bags. The stuff, the donations in the baskets are any extra donations you can afford. We use that towards special people of lesser needs or for some special projects, okay? So this prosperity blessing together, please. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Thank you. It'll take just a minute for them to pass those baskets and bags around. While they're doing so, please just give me your attention for a moment. Remember, there's lots of different ways you can help. You can donate, prayers for our continued, prosperity and peace here. People donate all kinds of things. They donate items for Judy to sell. She's one of our board members in her estate sales because she can sell those and make donations to the center. People make one-time donations. They become sponsors each month towards a thing, like our musicians or our guest speakers and so on. We've had people donate stocks in the market. Whatever a person feels guided to do, remember that those are available. We have chaplains available after services. There's a chaplain prayer. You're welcome to sit and just be in the vibes. You're welcome to sit and pray and add to the healing vibes. Or you can also sit and say, could I get some prayer on a certain issue? Okay? They'll give you cards you can fill out, and then they'll add that. And the chaplains are all here doing the prayer with you. Thank you if you're joining us on social media. There's folks that watch years after a service. They'll see it, and still they post how much they still gain out of it like it was that day. So we really appreciate the folks. We have a Facebook group for the Friends of Michael Mirdad, and then there's a Zoom group that you can get into through that Facebook group. Every Monday, 11 till 1-ish, 12-ish, we have chat about things going on in the world and in people's lives, so it's kind of open. We also have a Daughters of Heaven conference coming up in September. It's every year, but it's absolutely the best conference I've ever been associated with or experienced or participated in. And I've been in a lot of them, but it's absolutely the coolest. We have it here at the center. You might want to check out the book or the website, Daughters of Heaven, to learn more about it. All right? We have a healing yurt here. Inside is the crystal bed. You can go in there and have a very cool multi-dimensional healing experience. There's brochures in the foyer that'll tell you more about it. A block away, we have the Enchanted Healing Room. If you're wanting body work, energy work, craniosacral work, you can go and get that done. It's only a block from here. All right? And The Daughters of Heaven early bird discount. I mean, it's inexpensive anyway, but if you want the early bird, it ends in the next couple of days. So now would be the time you want to get your tickets, but you can get them anytime. So today, this afternoon, we have a hands-on healing workshop. You're welcome to stay or watch on Zoom. If you can't stay or can't watch today on Zoom, you can just sign up for it and watch it anytime at your convenience. I'll be facilitating that, okay? Let's see. Lastly, I got all these notes from things I'm supposed to announce. Lastly, there's DVDs of mine. We're closing those out. I have books and I have CDs, but DVDs, we're closing those out because of the lack of room in the bookstore and so on. But there's about 24 different sets, and each one has 4 different talks in it. They're really, really good, especially if you want to focus on a certain theme. Like there might be one on spirituality in general, one on healing, different topics like that, but 4 talks in each one. Those are available. You buy one, they're half price. They're $10. But if you buy 5, you can get them for just half that price. And then if you buy the whole set, you get them for just a couple bucks each. So it's really cool. But we have enough for probably another, maybe 20 full set purchases. But anyway, if that attracts you, if that speaks to you, please reach out and take what you can. All right, please stand for our closing prayer. How's everyone feeling? Was it clear and understandable just how much inner conflict we have? And most people don't realize it. Did that get across? Every day, many times a day, inner conflict. Does it sound like that brings you peace and healing? So therefore, it's an unhealthy thing. Yet why would we do it? Well, I didn't know any options. Well, now you do. See it. Own these pieces. Surrender it. Ask for peace. Ask to live from this centered place. And know that there's nothing wrong with you when you feel inner conflict. It's a normal thing in an egoic world. But there are alternatives. There's other ways of dealing with this. I could see peace instead of this. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we go, God is, I am, we are, and so it is. Peace be with you all. Thanks so much, guys.